Hello, algebra students. Today we are on page 631 talking about how to use exponential regression models. When you see that word regression, maybe that reminds you of back in first semester when we were looking at scatter plots and we used a line of linear regression to describe the scatter plot and whether it had a positive correlation or negative correlation or no correlation. And we learned about correlation coefficient and things like that. So this is along the same lines, but it's with exponential models. So we're talking about those graphs that are exponential in growth or decay, and that's what we're going to be doing today. The whole purpose for using these regression models is that we can use regression models to make predictions. And remember, we did that back in the first semester with our scatter plots. We could use kind of the trends of what had been happening, a trend line, to predict what something might be in the future and come up with what would be reasonable and what wouldn't be reasonable. So we're doing the same thing, it's just that we're using exponential models now. So on page 631, in the Explore section, it says, how do we fit an exponential function to data? Well, one of the reasons that data is valuable is that it allows us to make predictions for values that fall outside of the data set. In other words, bigger numbers or smaller pieces that we can't see in the data that we're given. So in order to do this, we have to synthesize that data into a function. So again, we're trying to get a function, or it's kind of like a trend line, so that we can make predictions. And that trend line for exponential functions is called an exponential regression. So an exponential regression is a graphing calculator tool that's used to generate an exponential equation that fits your data for exponential growth or decay. So it gives you it's using that stat feature again is what we're going to do on our calculator, just like we did with scatter plots, and it's going to produce an exponential function that we could then use to look at the table of values and predict values that are farther on in our data set than what we've been given to make predictions. So the stat tools on your graphing calculator are how we're going to do this to find the regression model for a set of data. So let's go ahead and input this data in our graphing calculator. So remember, we're going to go to stat plot, and actually it walks you through every step, every button press in this textbook pages.